I've bought several Agile guitars over the years, and with Brice being the bass equivalent from the distributor Rondo Music, I figured it's time to give these guys a look. Specifically though, I bought this Quake bass with an extra 3 inches of scale length to see how it affects tone for an extra low contrabass tuning. If you haven't seen my previous 34-inch scale length contrabass video, you should check it out. It's kind of a part 1 for this video. Asking for ideas on how to improve from that, we all came to the same first conclusion. But since getting my hands on this guy, there's a lot to talk about. This is Kevin from Said Too Much. First, I just want to point out something sketchy. As of summer 2018, Rondo Music's page lists the bass with what looks like a Bubinga neck. The description doesn't actually say. The third-party website Reverb.com has the bass listed there as well, with pictures showing what looks like a maple neck, which makes more sense for the price. I bought mine directly from Rondo's website, out of curiosity though, and sure enough, it matches the photos from Reverb.com's website, not the one on Rondo's listing. Anyway, as for the bodywood, Rondo Music listed as Corina with a Bubinga top, but the Bubinga is very soft and cheap looking. I hate to say it, but it almost looks just like a varnish. Don't expect to be impressed if you really care about finish. Keep in mind, I still have no idea what kind of wood the neck actually is. I'm only guessing maple with what looks like the reddest rosewood fingerboard I've ever seen. The body is really thick, which makes it heavy. I didn't expect something as slim and nice as the Ibanez basses I have, but still, it's even thicker than some of my Agile guitars. It's kind of funny to hold too. The way this thing's leg cutout and weight distribution is set up has it sliding off my leg a little bit. It's playable, but not too comfortable. The headstock is also bigger than I like. It seems to be more of a stock shape that would accommodate 6 and 7 string versions, which I should have figured because of the price. The tuners are fine, fretwork is playable. It has a 3-band EQ with nice metal knobs, but a balance and volume knob that are a disappointing plastic. There's also a passive active switch that looks a little rushed into place to finish off the electronics. Not gonna lie, I was left a little disappointed when I opened the case. It's just too hard to tell what this instrument is gonna be like from pictures online. When looking at the pictures online, I was a little scared that this instrument wouldn't be able to be top-loaded, which from my previous experiment I concluded was kinda necessary to fit strings almost thicker than the ball end itself onto the instrument. Rondo Music listed the string-through ability as a selling point too, making me even more hesitant. But as you can see, top-loading works. Although the strings don't really look 100% secure sitting in there to me. I did do some drilling experimentation before settling on the top-loading. I'll talk more about gauges later, but as for setup, I was able to drill the body and ferrule pretty comfortably to fit a .158 gauge string. I couldn't get the hole big enough for the .210 string I bought, but dare I say, I think with enough effort I may have been able to get it. The ball end is technically thicker than the string when I check with a caliper, so it can theoretically still sit in the string ferrule if you drill it out enough for the actual string to pass, but you would have to walk that fine line of not drilling it out too wide to let the ball end slip through as well. The reason that I didn't stick to the string through though is that the strings I ordered ended up being too short when fitted through the body. The strings are from a company called Callium, one of the only companies that I know that makes strings with super thick gauges in various lengths. I ordered their medium length strings, but I guess for the extra length going through the body, I needed to order their longest versions. However, top loading seems to be the superior solution here because it allows you to bring the saddle back more, past the string hole in this bridge design, which is pretty much necessary for intonation on strings that are just super thick. Considering every other part of this bass, I'm pretty happy with the bridge, which is weird because I was so unsure of it before ordering. The action was very easy to set up as well. The bass came shipped in standard 5-string tuning, and right out of the case, it immediately sounded brighter and more piano-like than any of my other basses. I was so impressed, in fact, that I made a quick simple sample pack before I switched the strings that you can download over on my Patreon for free if you'd like. I've had a recording of it playing in the background music all this time too. If you were curious about keeping the bass in standard, it did still need some intonation tweaking straight out of the case, which isn't too difficult, just obnoxious. But of course, what most of us really want is some super low tuning. Longer scale length means we can get away with thinner strings than the previous project, and hopefully have more clarity and tuning stability. Here is the tuning and a side-by-side gauge comparison for both of these basses. The difference may not seem that extreme, but let me tell you, it's noticeable. To be fair, this is also telling of how much a difference new strings make, with the previous one's strings being almost 6 months old now, but still, I'm impressed. I'll make a more in-depth video comparing tones in the future, but for now I'll do a F-sharp major scale followed by a C-sharp major scale, like I did in the last video, just to give you a quick taste. For all the difficulties, this has swayed me away from any buyer's remorse. I am really looking forward to using this instrument more. One more thing about tone and tuning, I want to thank everyone who mentioned tuning using harmonics to get these super low strings in tune. I find that using the 5th and the 12th fret harmonic easily helps you nail down the pitch accurately on strings that would otherwise not show up on a tuner. Lastly, let's talk about playability on this 37-inch scale length. I don't particularly have big hands, and I thought this might be a problem. I've made some fake cardboard necks to test the same concern I've had on a couple of other instruments I couldn't physically get my hands on. I kind of thought the more available 35.5-inch scale length was going to be my limit, but since getting this guy, and with more practice, I'm more confident. I'm just gonna have to get used to moving my hand a little more maybe. The trade-off for tone seems more than worth it, and I figured this instrument will lend itself to hand positions higher up the fretboard as well. I recommend the cardboard idea for anyone that's curious. There are several fret calculators online, and most instruments should have nut and string spacing specs listed out as well. Just know that having something physically in your hand with 3 dimensions and strings is gonna feel a lot more comfortable. So don't freak out too much if you think it's weird holding it. I know Rondo Music has some fan fret models with the more comfortable 34-inch scale length on the higher side. Of course, there's the coveted Dingwall Combustion NG2 in this configuration, as well as a ESP I've found. Giving it thought though, I figured I'd commit to a 37-inch scale length across all the strings. If we're tuning super low to create what is essentially a new instrument, I figure the longer scale length on the strings that overlap with the regular bass will help distinguish its sound. Perhaps we can have arrangements that use both instruments at the same time. There is one more option for super long scale basses that I'm aware of, with Callium, the same company that makes the strings, offering a custom shop with basses that go all the way up to 40 inches in scale length. They've even taken a swing at tuning even lower to a G-sharp -1, which would be an octave under my 10 string, but I'm pretty sure that's gonna have to be for another video. One more thing I want to bring up before we conclude is what to actually call basses tuned this low. I've been calling it a contrabass because the contra prefix would imply that it's 1 register lower than a regular bass guitar. But a bass guitar is actually already in the contrabass octave, tuned the same as an upright contrabass in the classical sense. So classically, this instrument is in the sub-contra octave, and thus a sub-contra bass. But most people wouldn't think about that and would only search for a contrabass when thinking of a bass down a register. And of course there's the quake term, which I hate. It reminds me of the game or the snack. Maybe you guys can help me in the comments. So whatever you'd like to call this guy, it ended up being different than I expected. Bulkier and heavier, but also more accommodating of the contrabass tuning, with pretty satisfactory stability and clarity. The price seems to fluctuate since I've been keeping my eye on it towards the beginning of the year, and I'm not sure how long the model will stick around since Rondo Music is always changing things out, but I'd say for the price, any Brice bass with a 37-inch scale length is a good budget buy, at least for experimenting with ridiculously low tunings. One last time, be sure to check out my Patreon. There's several free things there, including DIs from the first contrabass, picked and finger tests, with MP3 downloads and more DI tracks from all my covers, experimental instrumentals, and tests for those who want to help support and join this experimental community. There's also another quick simple sample pack of this bass and the contrabass tuning, as well as a simple sample pack from my 10-string. Also, be sure to check out my social media if you want sneak peeks of future projects and behind-the-scenes kind of things. I want to thank everyone for watching and subscribing too. You all definitely help support me through views and feedback in the comments. It's been over 6 months of this channel running now, and with your support, we can help fund bigger projects and mess with new instruments like this guy. For now though, enough said. Thank you all so much. Seriously, thank you.